Arrowhawk by Lola McShuffer, illustrated by Gabby Swowska. Arrowhawk. Arrowhawk by Lola McShuffer, illustrated by Gabby Swowska. Hawk, young and strong, soared high above an open field. His large eyes searched dried glasses below. A mouse raced in and out of the stubble. Hawk swooped down, snatched his prey, and carried out a fence post. There in an aluminum sun, he ate the mouse in a hooked beak. Twang! Out of nowhere, an arrow streaked through the air and pierced the hawk's upper high tail. He screeched in pain. A flash of a moment and his left signaled more danger. Stunned by the arrow, Hawk hesitated, then beat his wings, rose above the tracker, and flew into distant trees. Hawk tried to reach. Arrow snagged on small branches. He flew higher until he landed on an open limb in a red oak. Pain pulsed through the body. He pecked and wildly at the arrow lodged in his thigh. Then he twisted his head and tried to push the arrow out of his tail. Blood seeped in wounds, and now the arrow did not budge. It was now part of him. For 2 days and nights, Hawk rested high in the red oak. He only left his roost to scoop water in a nearby stream. He ignored the pain and cleared his wounds, would gently pick the dirt and bugs from the openings. He then peered himself by sliding up his beak down the shaft of his feather and tucked into place. Weary, he slept. By the third morning, Hawk was hungry. He spotted a black rat snack in the underbush. He flapped his wings, lied down, snatched Hawk, flew in a tree, and held the snack against the limbs. But when he bent down to eat, his beak kept bumping into the arrow. After 3 tries, Hawk finally pushed his head far enough aside so he could eat his prey. The next 4 weeks, Hawk's wounds healed around the arrow, and he grew stronger. Then the days began to shorten and colder winds blew the north. Hawk sent to fly south, led him away from the land he knew. He guided over harvested fields and busy barnyards. He sailed over south of the highways and rested areas. Sometimes he perched on poles and power lines, watching unsuspecting prey. Late one afternoon, Hawk caught a mouse in a hayfield and carried it to his cottonwood tree. As he tried to land, the arrow wedged itself between the trunk and branch. Hawk's right foot twisted backwards. He could not move out of the tree. The hawk flapped his wings several times, but he was stuck. He pecked and jacked and pulled the arrow out of his beak. Nothing. Then, gathering all his remaining strength, he beat his wings, pushed his feet back, and crack! The hawk's lower right leg snapped. At the same time, the arrow bent and tip broke off. Pain shot through the hawk, and he pushed had been enough. He was free. Hawk flew up to the top of the cottonwood. Not only had he broken his leg, but he had reopened the arrow's wounds. Fresh blood trickled down his body. He was exhausted and hungry. He had dropped the mouse and was too weak to hunt again. Before the sun set, Hawk was asleep. Hawk woke up to cooler winds and pelting rains. His broken bone had not punctured the skin, but the leg was painful under his weight. Hawk winced every time he moved, so he only used his left foot hand and perch. For the next 2 days, he took shelter in a grove of white pines, and gradually the bone began to mend. On the third morning, Hawk flew into the gray sky. Even though arrow continued to weaken him, he traveled south to 5 miles before he stopped. He searched for a remote tree to perch. Then all he saw were buildings, cars, and people. Hawk rested on a telephone pole. From the lookout, he spotted his field. Near dusk, he circled an open area and found it teeming with mice, where he easily caught later and settled into the tall oak and oak woods and followed the field. But every flight, every landing seemed to tire him more. The hawk closed his eyelids and slept. Cold rains blanketed the area over the next 5 days. Chilled and hungry, Hawk remained in a safe roost. Finally, one afternoon, the sun broke through the trees. Still weak from the arrow, but hungry, Hawk left his perch. He was lying on the field. now full of standing water, he heard chirping birds close to his highways. Hawk flew away, saw a quail of sparrows near the ground. They fluttered and bumped on top of another. If a hawk could catch a bird, it would be the first meal in days. On silent wings, he dove, talons ready, just to reach his prey. The invisible net entangled his feet. The hawk screeched loud again and again. He couldn't reach the sparrows, and he couldn't fly away. Hawk bent his wings faster and faster. The more he struggled, the more his talons, feet would become twisted in a snare. He fought and he screeched. He pecked, he flapped, and flapped until darkness surrounded him. The fight was over. Every muscle relaxed as the hawk's head was covered. It was taken away in a warm box. Later, gloved hands held him high, and he began to beat his wings, struggling for freedom. But a firm grasp carried the hawk inside the building where the anesthesia helped him slip into sleep. When he woke, the arrow was gone, and his wounds were bandaged. Hawk sat in a small cage facing the woods. Weak and sore, he perched motionless, watching the songbirds dart in the distance. Later in the tray of food and a bowl of fresh water he said was his reach. Hawk ate and drank. Day by day he grew stronger. After his wound healed, Hawk joined the other hawks in a large flight rage. He had his own perch. He could flap his wings, glide more and ran to other. Between flights he preened. Many of the feathers felt longer and fuller. With the arrow gone, Hawk could now stretch and gloom his tall feathers. Every other day, Hawk rode to the box of the open field. He would leather straps were attached to the fire line, gloves tossed him into the air. Hawk felt the cold rush beneath him. He rose, flapped, and glided toward a small stand of trees. He knew his feelings of freedom well, but his flight always ended up lying rain out, pulled him back. Every time Hawk crossed that field, his muscles grew stronger, and he felt faster than before. Early one cold morning, Hawk rode farther in the field anew. Gloved hands brought him to the sunlight. Again, Hawk was held as high. His leather straps were cut, fell to the ground. Hawk felt the north and brushed his wind. He heard the voice, "You survive, Arrowhawk. Fly home." Familiar hands tossed him gently into the air. Hawk flapped his wings and skimmed the earth. He then beat his wings harder and rose, fell the trees and straight to an arrow. Arrow soared into the wind. The story of Arrowhawk was based on real events. A red-tailed hawk, less than a year old, survived a poacher's arrow for 8 weeks in the wild. Due to the combined efforts of concerned citizens, the media, and the raptor biologist, a person educated trained to treat the injured birds of prey, Young's migratory curse was charted. When several reports placed Arrowhawk at the same location for 5 days, a rescue plan. A raptor biologist contracted a local falconer who set up a live trap and sparrows and Arrowhawk captured in late October, licensed a staff x-ray, and performed surgery, treated his arrow wounds, and administered antibiotics to rid his body of infection. The hawk received further medication and attention for 6 weeks. During that time, his damaged feathers were removed, no one was implanted, care and precision. Through regular exercise and careful monitoring, test Hawk's flight, Hawk's strength restored. On December 24th, the hawk was taken back to the area where he was rescued. With a new set of tail feathers, strong muscles, and healthy body, Arrowhawk was released into the wild. Red-tailed hawks are among the most common raptors, birds of prey found in North America. Their ideal habitat is a tall wooden area with a near open field source of water. Red-tailed hawks have the 3 identified features of tall birds of prey: large eyes, sharp talons, and hooked beak. They hunt for live prey such as mice, rabbits, snakes, and birds of prey over fields of watching high perches. Red-tailed hawks have kept their number of rodents in check, since an average hawk eats 10 to 12 mice in one day. It can eat more than 4,000 mice in a year. Wow. Other birds of prey are owls, eagles, falcons, and osprey. Even though raptors have graced their skies for millions of years, in the last century our developing world has threatened their safety and future. Most raptors are injured or killed along highways. People throw trash on the side of the road and it attracts rodents. Birds of prey swoop down on live food and stuck by trucks and automobiles. Still more birds suffer from die after eating poisonous chemicals intended to kill other animals and their insects. Even though it is illegal, poachers claim to live lives many raptors each year with their senseless shooting. But in the last 20 years, they have gained new understanding and respect for the role raptors play in the balance of nature. Strong protective laws have been written and enforced. The use of damaging chemicals have been greatly reduced. Reintroduced programs such as premier falcons, eagles, and have increased the population of nearly extinct species. Still, that is not enough. We have to educate our future citizens to guarantee those mistakes will not repeat. Conservation officials and raptor biologists are doing just that. They license and train professional visit schools and youth clubs with live presentations. Children are firsthand the mastery of dignity in their birds. They've learned the importance of nature habitat, protective flagellation, and land management. With our help, raptors will soar many more years. The end.